All right, let's get into it. Meta has just dropped $2.5 billion on a startup that is only 9 months old, based out of Singapore, called Manus. It's really the fastest 0 to 100 mil ARR run that's been seen in this region for sure. And the question can't be helped, but is this now the new blueprint for every founder in the region? Or is Zuck just buying a geopolitical headache by navigating this China transplant into Singapore tightrope that he seems to have gotten himself onto?
I'm not sure about what's going on with this big trillionaires. There's Zuck, there's Musk. Their names seem to be pretty, like I said earlier, punnable. Like, think about it, Zuck, Musk, and it all. I mean, okay, that's overgeneralizing, but anyway. So this is not a headache. It's more like a brain transplant. Look, we have spent 2 years talking about chatbots. Manus is an agent. I still can't quite with the name. I don't know why it sounds okay. You don't ask to write an email about a flight. You tell it, find me a flight under $500 to Bali, book it, and put the confirmation in my Slack. It's got 80 million virtual computers running in the cloud doing the work for you. It's the, action era. And everyone's still talking about it. Meta just literally bought hands. Zuck bought a different pair of hands, really. And it's let's be honest, it's the most expensive Singapore wash cycle we have ever seen. Beijing startup, Lion City jersey on, Meta check clears. And it's not just any M&A story. It's more like a geopolitical case study, a category reset for AI, and like you said, a blueprint for founders across Asia. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean this is basically the crux of the matter here is that this Singapore washing of the company, is it really not going to end up triggering the geopolitical headache? You know, there is a logic to it that we are seeing a US-China tech decoupling. Singapore is the kind of the safe ground in the midst of it. So for companies that are having global ambitions, I get it. You likely have to exit out, and Singapore is a logical extension to it. I mean, when you look at just last year, at least the numbers that I came across said that there's like 1,500 other firms that basically did similar. What they're proving is that when you have solid tech and you can find product market fit and you can find this sort of lightning in a bottle that doesn't come across so often, you can move fast enough and you can exit to big tech, and that the geography is just a footnote in regards to it. So we'll see. There's still a lot of, as with any deals, especially ones like this, even after a deal is agreed to, even if a deal is closed, regulators have a tendency of coming around and knocking on your door and still making life difficult. So there's probably still gonna be things, whether it's happening in the back door and we're just completely unaware of it. I would assume that something is still happening around here.
If they let it happen, China's MOFCOM is already sniffing around, like I said, saying this tech belongs to the mainland, and Meta had to literally de-China the cap table, buying out Tencent and Hongshan, and it's going to be a hostage negotiation. But then it's still a win for the local system. We've got 100 engineers in Singapore now sitting on Meta stock. That's the next generation of founders for our backyard, and the Manus Mafia is going to fund the next 10 years of C-Tech. And, let's break down the data, the Singapore washing playbook. Man, when did the Singapore washing playbook come around? That's so, this is weird, and why your next intern might actually be a Meta-owned agent. Again, you see,
Have you
Meta
used
is pretty
Manus
much...
by any chance?
Nah, it's just too many AI stuff to use. I like Claude though.
Okay.
I like Claude. I
Okay.
have not tried Meta because at one point when I started using Meta, it was just meh. So I didn't really want to look
I
into it
mean,
anymore, but I think I should now.
Meta's llama model. I never really got into, but
Yeah,
Manus was quite good, in regards to doing a number of activities. Claude has definitely moved forward, but I know a number of people that are very diehard on leveraging Manus, and
yeah,
it gains super wide popularity, for
yeah,
and grew very fast. But it's a competitive space, and mind you, we are in kind of the why not try it sort of phase.
yeah,
So
yeah.
let's rewind for a second, just for anyone that is listening in and might be living under a rock and hasn't seen this news story. Just to recap, Meta acquired Manus. Manus is
Mhm,
originally a China company, moved to Singapore, basically
mhm.
scrubbed themselves clean,
Yep.
disconnected. Uh, Only less than a year later, boom, $2.5 billion acquisition. Super fast, launched in March 2025, hits 100 mil in 8 months, faster than Cursor, faster than ChatGPT's Enterprise Wing at least. The product is agentic AI. Instead of like asking it something, telling you how to do something, Manus actually can open up the browser, find you what you need, do it for you. It's agentic. It actually is an execution layer. And if you put this in context of other recent activity, Meta literally just bought Scale AI not too long ago.
Yeah.
Um, and the only other bigger deal besides Scale AI was way back when they bought WhatsApp, which was
Yep.
also a very tiny team, and everyone was saying that they overpaid for it. Now all of those
Mhm.
same people can't get off of their WhatsApp. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
That's a good one, subtle.
it's an interesting deal.
Yeah.
Meta has been super aggressive. Super aggressive. They
Yeah.
bought Scale AI. They've been throwing around like these 100 million, multiple hundreds of $1 million pay packages in order to try and recruit top talent. Their head AI researcher left when he got put
Yeah.
under a 23-year-old, or maybe he was 26 or whatever age he
26.
was. He was like, I'm not doing this. Then he did a whole bunch of like grumpy commentary in the news about where the direction is. But Meta has tons of money. So like, in all honesty, like $2.5 billion for Meta is
Mhm.
like finding coins in your couch cushions.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to them. In all
It's
honesty,
like,
like
oh, surprise
it
money.
sounds like a big acquisition, but
Yeah.
like the amount of free cash flow that Meta creates is
Yeah.
just astronomical. So like these figures don't even matter.
Yeah. I mean, it does sound like, even by the name Meta, I think it was derived from this Buddhist Pali word called loving kindness. So I guess he must be spreading love too much that he's getting all his karma, good karma back. That, all this is just coin money. You never know, right? Because it is a Pali word actually, but it's just with two T's, and it's just but Meta is just one T. But
Yeah.
Meta also means big. So I don't know
I
for
think
sure,
his
but
meta was
you just never know,
when he
right?
was dumping tons of money into the metaverse, and all of that just basically went poof.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. And I actually, when I was one of the networking events, Manus happened to be one of the sponsors of it, or was it? And I saw the demo of it, and it's really powerful.
mm,
The way they're doing it is really aggressive. Like, just for attendees alone, we got like 3 months of free credits for the first 3 months, just by us watching it and scanning. So they are trying to get as much of, like, for us, like, data points to get people to use it, and that's why they could scale so fast. I mean, literally, if you think about it, they launched in March, and end of the year, in 8 months, they hit 100 mil ARR. It's like anyone who got pregnant and now gave birth, literally, you can get 100 million ARR. That's crazy. Um, yeah. But then, I don't think Meta, given its loose like to your metaphor of saying like 2.5 bill doesn't really matter much to them. It feels like they didn't buy ARR multiples. It's more like they just bought time. Um,
I mean,
you know, in
they're trying to acquire talent
yeah,
because, like, I don't think they've had a high level of success in creating it themselves.
yeah,
The pieces fit. Like, you could make a logical argument on this,
mm-hmm,
and let's say, for example, that they're buying it in order to improve their ads product.
yeah,
Facebook ads, it's a little bit of a pain to be honest with you, but it's a
mm-hmm.
giant moneymaker. Now
It
imagine
is.
if you could end up layering on a agentic product that
Mm-hmm.
enables all of these brands and all of these marketers to more easily decide, create the lookalike audiences, do the research on who they're targeting, create the copy, do all of these different aspects, and they could charge more.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's the use case that they're going after. I'm just kind of like going off the top of my head of like, what would I use Manus for on Facebook specifically, or on Meta suite of products?
I mean, I don't think that this deal isn't really about chat. It's more like action. Like as much as you say, especially there's a lot of saying right now for entrepreneurs, right?
Mm,
Ideas are cheap. Not that I agree fully with it, but it's always about the execution. So f- I think there's some parallel to this as well. I'm just drawing it. Like LLMs help you think, but agents replace labor, right? Like that's a bit of the valuation shift. We've moved from tokens per minute to tasks per outcome. You
mm,
know, Manage runs like tens of millions of virtual machines in the cloud doing work on your behalf, which is exactly why, to a certain extent, from a skeptical point of view, like I'm being skeptical about it, sorry, which is exactly why regulators are pretty nervous because once software acts, it stops being just a software. And that's why this deal, I think, kind of resets the pricing a bit because a 25 million ARR agent company isn't 150 million company anymore. It's more like a 500 mil to 1B strategic asset because you pretty much just reprice the entire agent category globally. Um, and that's where I kind of see it because it's pretty much the single largest pure play AI exit in C history. It validates the Singapore HQ strategy for a deep tech founder in Asia, right? And like we said earlier, the Meta Mafia is coming. 120 employees, mostly in SG. That's a lot of fresh liquid capital hitting the local angel market. And like today, your post, you were saying angel investing is one of the most expensive hobbies ever. There is some truth to that. Because I think we've highlighted this in our previous podcast episodes as well, whereby in terms of like just last year alone, Singapore accounted for 91% of all tech funding in C. That's again Singapore taking the lead, and then AI infrastructure, massive spillover. AI data investments in SG is hitting in Singapore is hitting 810 million in 2025. It's projected to double in what the next 5 years. So I think this kind of changed things a lot. Like it's as though inflation is another level
mm.
inflation just from a deal basis. And it's gonna make it's a bit Anyway,
Yeah,
lost for
I mean,
words.
I hope that there's the mafia coming out of this. I hope that this ends up mincing a bunch of people that are gonna dump some of those gains back into startups. The
Yeah.
skeptic in me is looking around and saying, we have plenty of people that have plenty of liquidity. We've had some exits in the past. We have some well-to-do founders, but we have a few different mafias that we can point to in the sense of people that go off and found new companies. But from
Mm-hmm.
the angel side, it's hard to point to it and be like, who's the founders fund? Who's the sort of
Yeah.
who's the grayscale, or some of these other storied venture firms that basically got spun out of the same. We don't really have those as of yet. We don't really have the sort of super active super angel that spun out. So I'm hopeful that some liquidity into the market and this playing into it hopefully drives it. But at the very
Mm-hmm.
least, I hope and I think this is probably more realistic, is that a lot of the young founders that are out there that are now building an AI, and I think we've kind of, because of the tooling, we've essentially democratized your ability to build. So I think the hurdle on the build side has lowered. You still need some technical capability. It's not easy, but the build side has been de-risked. I hope what this starts showing is that you can build global scale from out here in
Mm-hmm.
Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Singapore HQ, sure. To be honest with you, I don't care about the origins because I talk the
Yeah.
same game in regards to like if you're in Malaysia and you start getting big enough and you need to tap into the big pockets, you should have a Singapore HQ anyways. You should take
Yeah.
advantage of how good the regulatory and the tax regime and the predictability and like the just the clarity of the black and white of the operating ecosystem. Go there.
Yeah.
If you're in the Philippines, build there, keep your operating base there, but ultimately you're going to put the legal, regulatory, et cetera, and you're gonna rotate that over to Singapore. So from my standpoint, it's basically same but different. But I hope that this leads as an example to all of the people that are building across the region right now, and it's like, hey, let's have a Me Too moment. And all these founders are like, I can do it too. 800 mil
Yeah.
in 9 months. I want to do that. I want to see whether or not I can hit that revenue run rate in 6 months.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to get that lightning in a bottle. So like I'd prefer if they just focus on building really cool businesses. But
Yeah.
hopefully it acts as an inspiration, I guess is the other way that I should be putting it.
Yeah, I think it's like the way it's done right now. It's like it's democratic, like What do you call it? I have a
Democratizing.
short tongue. Yes, sorry, I'm not gonna say that. It's making that happen for not just. It started off with what Instagram, right? And Instagram is now also part of Meta,
Yeah.
and now it's Manus. AI is being democratized. Yes, finally. Whew.
Hmm.
Um, so what I'm trying to say, it's like if you draw it to another parallel again, as you were talking about how HQ should be set to Singapore and how you don't really think much about where the origins are. Somehow or other, it kind of brought me to the American dream. Like it doesn't matter where you're from, as long as you work hard, you get to where you are, you get that dream. So to a certain extent, it echoes this movie called The Singaporean Dream. It's on Netflix as well. See again,
Hmm.
movie nerd here again. So that's one of it. What I'm trying to say is, it's I just feel like some things are like always coming back full circle again and again. It's just how you see it. So this is one example of it. I just thought I had to say it anyway. But
Yeah.
let's talk about the Singapore washing debate. Like
Is
you
it
were
really
saying,
a Singapore company?
exactly, because it does matter to a certain extent. Perception matters, whether or not where it comes from. It does matter, but it doesn't have to matter that much. But then again, let's talk about the uncomfortable part. So Manner started as Monica.im in Beijing, and they relocated to Singapore in mid last year. And they deleted all of their Chinese social footprints, and they laid off 80 plus staff in China, and they cleaned the cap table. And I think, like we said earlier, that's pretty much de-risking, and they're not alone because we've seen this playbook with other companies as well, right? We have TikTok, we have Shein, we have TerraHop as well. And Singapore, pretty much, given where they are in this part of the world in Asia, it's become the jurisdiction of optionality. If the code was written in Mandarin, but the text written is in Singapore dollars, what? My question is, what nationality is this company? Um, because it's like the way I see it, it's like software doesn't have a citizenship anymore. It just has compliance because it depends on where they are. They have to comply with the local rules and regulations. And it's basically Singapore is again in a very great place that is monetizing its neutrality. Think about it, like it is, right? Like because of where it is, its regulations that are pretty pretty black and white, and it kind of attracts so many people coming, and it's like the gateway to the next level. And China is de-risking that by coming to Singapore. Singapore neutralizes it and pushes it out into the great world of international markets.
Yeah, so I think there's two things on this. One, there's a bunch of VCs that are now like jumping on the bandwagon and looking for that China to global bridge and trying to see whether or not they can lure more of these um wonderful startups and these great founders and bring them over to Singapore and say let's clean you up and get you ready for the global stage. So there's
Yeah,
definitely players that are trying to take that strategy.
yeah.
Um, but on the question of is it really a Singapore company, I would say no. To be
Mm,
honest with you,
mm-hmm,
because I mean it's not. It didn't start there. It didn't incubate there. It came when it was ready for prime time and trying to clean itself up for larger fundraising. And it just so happened that things struck and took off, and then it got acquired too short of a
mm-hmm.
time period in all honesty in order to
Yeah.
like really say it like from my standpoint in order to like say a company is the like representative of the jurisdiction that it's in doesn't
Mm-hmm,
necessarily mean that it has to be founded there. We all call Grab a
mm-hmm.
Singapore company even though it was not
Yeah.
founded there. um uh, but it its formative years in building were there,
Mm-hmm,
you know? I mean, mind
mm-hmm,
you, it was
mm-hmm,
spread over a
mm-hmm,
much longer time frame, so maybe I'm biased in regards to like length of time or whatever. Um,
mm-hmm,
but you know, I mean, they were incubated under the umbrella of another company, so there was some like legacy of what was going on with Manus in the past underneath another entity, along with with another product, and then just kind of carved out. But like,
mm-hmm,
whether it's really a Singapore company or not, does it really
mm-hmm.
matter? In all honesty,
No,
not
not really.
really. Like, I know people that have moved jurisdiction just because they want a better place to live.
Yeah,
Does it mean that their company is homeless or like without a
that's a good
nationality
way to put
because
it. Yeah.
like they
Nah,
left the prior so they can't be associated with that, they're not accepted in the new one? To be honest with you, it doesn't matter. The company's not a person.
nah, it doesn't.
It doesn't have a
Yeah,
nationality. Like, maybe it
yeah,
has a formal company registration and incorporation, so there's a legal document that says what the jurisdiction is, but it doesn't
yeah.
matter. What matters
No, it
from
doesn't.
my
No.
standpoint is where are the
Mm-hmm.
people and what is going to be the residual impact on the ecosystem that they're in. And I'm
Yeah.
optimistic that the signaling effect that this has will play positively for the local ecosystem, that there's an example of a company that was acquired in this region. It shows that
Mm-hmm.
big companies will still look at Southeast Asia to make acquisitions. It shows that founders from no matter where you're at can still use Southeast Asia as a base to hit global markets. It shows a number of these positive characteristics that
Mm,
I don't think are well accepted enough because we don't have enough examples. And so
yeah.
having a big mega one like this, sure, it's probably a one off. We're probably not going to see this repeated next month and next month and next month. Or hopefully we see another one this year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but at least it's something. So it's not a Singapore company, Singapore domiciled eventually. But it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. No.
Hopefully
No.
that
I
money
mean,
gets
I just want.
recycled into
Yeah.
this ecosystem and the newly rich, and hopefully they had some good stock options for the employees that were there and the staff, and like they start going off and like spraying that money around in angel investments and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully it works for the ecosystem, like I said. One can only hope, right? Because of this part of the world, everything is pretty slow. But this has been pretty eye-opening, really refreshing. Hopefully it would enable more companies to come, and with Singapore being the gateway, it could potentially provide more opportunities such as this to come on. It kind of puts us onto the stage again, the international stage, on a different level too, that hey, we're not slowing down, we are still there, we still exist rather. But then again, I mean, if you put it from a geopolitical point of view, then China's Ministry of Commerce, MOFCOM, is pretty much sniffing around. Is already sniffing around, and they're
Hmm.
investigating whether agentic AI violates the 2024-2025 export control catalog, arguing that behavior, not code, is restricted.
Yeah.
And that's new and dangerous, because if this deal gets blocked, it pretty much sets a precedent, right? Whether software behavior becomes export controlled. And that's pretty bad for cross-border SaaS. And on the US side, Meta has to prove that there are no backdoors and that this isn't an acquisition. It's more like a hostage negotiation with regulators watching, sorry. And the next AI war won't be fought in GitHub. It might be fought at customs, maybe. That's one point to look at, because Singapore is the neutral zone, but the zone is getting narrower. Again, if the lines are not clear, the boundaries are not clear, big countries such as China, where they're huge, will start sniffing, and it's not going to help the ecosystem as well, right? Like if China blocks the deal, Manus becomes a zombie, too American or too China, or too American for China, too Chinese for the US. That's a nice catch. Yeah. See?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think inevitably there's going to be some positioning politically around this. I'm not
Yeah.
convinced that there's a lot that's going to happen at the end of the day. I think this is probably going to go through clean. I think behind the scenes, you're exactly right. I think that on the China side, they're going to be looking at it. I mean, to be honest with you, because of the geopolitics, no U.S. politician wants to see American technology bought by Chinese, and no Chinese want to see their technology bought by Americans. It's just the nature of
Yeah.
the bipolar system that's going on right now.
That's a
Um,
good way to put it.
yeah, yeah, it is, it is as such. Um, and yeah, but like at the end of it, you know. If China tries to block it, what's their avenues in order to block it? Because the US government is probably not going to acquiesce and say you can dictate what our companies can and cannot acquire. Um,
Mm,
Presumably the bank accounts are not there. The
yeah.
transfer of money is not there, so I'm not sure what their long arm capability of going after them. Now, mind you,
Mm-hmm.
they could say there are citizens, we could not renew their passports. They're probably clever enough to have bought second passports or something elsewhere, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably something there, but I think at the end of it, it's unlikely that much is going to end up happening. I do think that Meta's going to have to prove on the U.S. side that there's no security risks or otherwise in regards to the technology, because that's always sensitive. Um, but I think at the end of the day, it's just another thing that's going to make politicians start puffing out their chest and talking tough.
Yeah. And the speed matters in AI, and timing matters even more. And if Singapore isn't a launch pad, then it's pretty much sorry, if Singapore isn't the destination, then it's a launch pad. That's how I see it. So, and
It
like you
is a
said, like,
launch pad.
right, it's a gateway, right? Like, if, like you said, nationality doesn't matter, but the next border rocket in AI will again be defined by execution and not the language, not nationality. But about Meta, we talk about geopolitics, we talk about valuations and regulators. But if you're a founder listening to this, giving it a spin within Southeast Asia, the real question is much simpler. So what does this then really actually unlock for me? Because like you said earlier, right? Like, Manus isn't just a headline. It's more like there's more of a signaling effect now more than ever, and it signals change behavior. Um, and the rules of the game have changed, but perhaps only temporarily. Yeah. But the flip side is that, sorry, if Singapore becomes only an exit factory and not a scale-up hub, you hold out long-term value
Yeah.
creation, and too many
I
fast
think
exits,
it's
not enough
definitely an
global
interesting
headquarters.
avenue in regards to what that means, and trying to put it
Yeah,
more into what does this mean for the operations of companies.
yeah, yeah. So
Um,
in some ways, Singapore is winning. There's no question about it. But it's also being used because IMDA wants
looking
neutrality,
at the
Mars wants
operations of the
compliance,
companies and
Mars as a
trying
monetary
to
of
get
Singapore.
a more solid
Founders
understanding
want
of
speed.
what can they do,
And,
getting back
those
into
goals don't
this
always align
I
forever.
can
At
too
some point,
sort
they do
of
collide.
mentality, the thought process that if Manas can do it, then using that as motivation and saying, hey, I'm going to be able
And I think
to
that
do
tension, right?
something similar with my company. I think it needs to be used as a motivational factor that inevitably will hopefully be able to drive more companies forward and become more ambitious. Southeast Asia needs to be put on the map, and we need to be able to drive more opportunities. And seeing more of these exits is just first of many, hopefully. Um, with that, I think that wraps up our session for today. I'm sure that it's been a fast moving news cycle at the beginning of this year so far, and I'm sure we have lots of material to be covering over the course of the next weeks. So give us a like, give us a follow. Subscribe to the newsletter, share it with a friend. All of this helps continue to allow us to bring you more content, and it certainly means a lot. Until next time, bye bye.